Hey everyone, it's Patrick Bell here on the software Q&A call. Carl can't be with us today. It's this evening my time, 10:30 at night here in Nairobi, Kenya. But I don't know where he's at. He's off doing something important, no doubt. Just gonna open up my line here, see if you guys can hear me, see my screen, and maybe I'll go to the start of the list. Bill Ben Overbeck. Are you there, Bill? Bill,
Yeah,
you
I'm
there?
here. I can hear you. Yeah, I'm here and
Hey,
I can
good,
hear you. So,
good. You see my screen okay?
yeah, yep, everything's good.
Excellent. Hey, so while you're on the line here, got a question?
Well,
Kick us off?
I see what you did. Yeah, I see what you did there. So I'm one of the new newbies. Like I'm still
Sure.
going through some of the introductory stuff, so I don't even know the software yet, so I wouldn't know what to ask. So
Okay.
just here trying to learn before I learn. So
Sure, that's great. Well done. Well done. So you got your software login yet? Have you got that?
I don't believe I have.
Okay, so you're probably still in the 100K training.
Yeah,
Is that
I'm
right?
supposed to start one of my first one. I think the first one this afternoon. So
Okay. All right, so I'm going to give you a heads up on the training. Um,
yeah.
it's at this point, and just for everyone listening as well, we've made some big changes to the 100K training in terms of functionality, but that's not coming till next week. I'm sorry.
Oh,
So I would say at this point, just make sure you use the washroom before you go, and there's no controls on the screen. So they just want you to sit and watch it. I think the experience in the past is some people say they're going to watch it, but they don't. They try to
okay.
force learning, but we are going to switch that up starting next week. We're going to break this 3 hour. It's like the first day is 3 hours and 10 minutes of video.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think for best learning experience, what I would do is, you know what, in the old days we used to take notes on a pen and paper, and you can still do that, or you can type notes. But it was
Yeah.
probably, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, I started seeing people just taking pictures of the screen, like, oh, that's a great quote. You'll
Hmm.
hear some great quotes. You could take a picture or a screenshot of the screen.
Yep.
But you're going to get access to the training afterwards anyway, where you can stop and start it.
Oh,
Starting in about a week, yeah, it's the training's going to live in the software. It's going to be broken down into little bite-sized chunks. There's going to be quizzes, things
oh, that's
like
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a little better learning experience. But sorry, it's still a week away. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I just looked and I'm in Malcolm's group and I'm going for my second group call today and I'll sign up for the 100K training then. That's what it looks like.
oh,
So
okay, yeah, sure. Well, the first time I heard Adrian talking about things like the conversion equation, and I've had at that point, I probably had 10 or 15,000 hours in marketing. I'm like, what are you saying? And there's a problem people have they don't want, and the result they want they don't have. I'm like, wait, say that again. And the problem now in the training is that he just keeps going, and you go, well, what was that? That was good, but it went too fast. And so with the new training coming up, you'll be able to stop it, replay it, take notes, and then there's little quizzes throughout that we're going
oh,
to
good.
be testing you to make sure you're paying attention. And some are like super simple questions,
Right.
and other ones really make you think and like, okay, wait, pause a minute, let me get a pen and paper and or break out a spreadsheet and let me work this. And what we're trying to do is simulate more of a actual experience with a client. When you're sitting down
Yeah.
with someone,
Yeah.
they break out this question like, well, how do you calculate break even analysis? And instead of going,
Hmm.
let me get back to you on that, which I would still do, even with an MBA, I'm still going to do
Right.
that because I always forget. We're just going to
Yeah.
drill those things a little bit. And the other advantage is, after again, you've done the training with the new setup, you'll be able to come back and you'll say, okay, what was the conversion equation? You can go straight to that little 6-minute video, whatever, on the conversion equation. and that'll help us.
Oh,
It's
that's
going to
great.
help everyone, I think. So
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah, that's
So anyway,
great.
Bill,
Yeah, my background,
yeah,
I'm a
go
CPA,
ahead.
so I'm familiar with that side of the world.
Oh, good.
Not as much on the marketing, sales and marketing. That's kind of my weakness. So
Sorry. Yeah. Well, everything's like a fire hose at this point, and we just expect it. And it's like I told someone maybe, or they told the group maybe a week ago, I moved over to Nairobi, Kenya, and the first 3 months you go out, you step outside your door, and you're just overwhelmed with culture and traffic and noise and
mhm.
like insanity. And you're going, oh, I just come home exhausted by noon, thinking, okay, how am I going to work now? I'm just so tired. And after a while, it's like, now I'm starting to live in the space and I'm driving now and I'm driving like a Kenyan, which is good or bad. And, learning to negotiate traffic jams and roundabouts with, five lanes on a 2-lane road and things like that. And
Yep,
it's just all, it's
yep,
getting more fun. So you'll get it. You'll get there and
yeah.
just keep at it. Yeah. Good, good. All right. Any other questions before I let you go?
You know, I'm just excited to start diving into the software. I've used Profit Sense before. I don't know if you're familiar with that product.
No, no.
Um, it it does. I want to say it's a Sage product,
Mm-hmm.
but it does a lot of the ratio analysis. And from what I've seen, I mean, you guys have taken this software, you know, 4 or 5 generations past what that software does, and that
Mm.
software was pretty good for pulling out, like I said, doing the ratio analysis for you, and it does some comparisons to same size companies either in your region or
Yeah.
nation, depending on how you run the screen. And um, it's a pretty good tool, but just from the little bit I've been able to see with PAS,
Sure.
it's head and shoulders better. So I'm excited
Oh,
to
good.
get a hold of it and start using it. So
That's great. Yeah. Well, it's the reason, the main purpose of the software is to be able to close clients. We used to call it client closer, but also to do a full assessment. And it's for people like myself who can't memorize great questions, and we just need something to look at, and we just want the
yep.
next best question to ask, like we're a marketing genius, and people think we're a genius. And it was like, you wouldn't even know what to ask. If you're talking about, say, referrals or referral systems, and like, where do you start? What's the best first question? And no
hmm
matter how they answer, what's the best next question you'd follow up all the way through
hmm
to do a complete analysis on their ability to get referrals or generate referrals and all the systems that go around that. So that's what we've tried to create, is allowing us to maybe sidestep an additional 10,000 hours to get to that place where we go, I'm actually pretty darn good. And it's
hmm
because of the software that makes me appear like I'm a genius and people don't even know it or whatever. So that's kind of
Yeah,
yeah. Well, good.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Well, good. Feel free to ask questions, hang out, and
Yeah.
yeah, anytime. Just a great place to ask also is in the Facebook group, very active Facebook group, and so many brilliant coaches in there that are just,
Yeah, I've been checking that out. So
good.
um,
All right.
yeah, I'm trying not to ask questions yet because I feel like I need to invest some time in it, before I
Sure.
earn the
Yeah.
right to ask questions,
Oh, not at all.
so
I
I
mean,
don't
you can jump in
want to
anytime, but
just
that's fine.
yeah, no, yeah, I get it. I feel like, I need to do a little bit of work before I just say, oh, please help me.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Sure. Fair enough. Anyway, when you get to the place where you're stuck, and we all get stuck at some point on something,
mhm,
um, just jump in there and ask, either on this call or in the Facebook group. And,
yeah,
don't let
perfect.
yourself get stuck for long at all,
Right,
whatever your time frame of long is. If it's an hour, a day, whatever, it's like, we don't have time to get stuck, right? Let's just keep moving. So, oh,
right.
good. Well done.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I'm going to put you on mute. It's great to connect with you, Bill.
Yep.
Pleasure, and
Okay.
hope to see you around. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, pleasure. Okay, I'm going to scroll down here. I see David Smith has his hand up. And David, you're self-muted, so you can unmute.
Sounds good. Thanks, Patrick, for giving me the chance to dive in. I think we connected a little bit via email, but I guess what would be the best way for me to introduce my question? You
Okay,
want me just to from
sure.
the top, or what would be best?
Let's go from the top, and I'll answer what I can. I might not be able to
Okay.
give away company secrets, but I'll do what
Oh,
I
of
can
course.
here. So
Sure, of course.
go
No,
for
that
it.
totally makes sense. Okay, well, the
Yep.
thing that I was running into is I was trying to just run through a couple different, I guess, test versions because I'm planning to use this a lot more with my clients, a lot more with my pitches, and as far as managing client work. And so as I was going through and putting in just kind of across the board 10% increases for as many of the, specifically in the Jumpstart 12 as I could. I was just
Yeah.
noticing that there's where we put in 10% our expected revenue increase. I was getting numbers that were less than that
Okay.
in my example, it was a $250,000 revenue company. I put in 10%, and
Yep.
the expected revenue increase would be 21,945, or
Okay.
as an example. And I was just trying to understand how do I, as I'm sitting with a client doing that, and they see that I've had a few of them that have kind of wrinkled their nose, going, "Wait a minute, where does that number come from?" And so why? And
Sure.
so I'm
Okay.
just trying to get some support on that.
Okay. So you can see my screen there, can you? Make sure we can.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, just a little note to everyone. My screen might look a little differently. I've got this really weird wide screen I've just been borrowing from a friend, so everything's stretched out a little bit wider. But
Okay.
anyway, so basic same experience though.
Sure.
So
Hmm.
here we've got current revenue of a million.
Hmm.
5% increase
Yeah.
would be 50,000, and you think, well, that's right across the board.
Yeah.
And the older version of the software, we'd do the same thing. All these areas would look at 5%. Well,
Hmm.
increased prices is one area that we're keeping at 5%. We're keeping it $50,000 because that's a true increase
Hmm.
without expenses. So, but what we decided, we had some feedback on this is like, well, if you're going to generate leads or you're going to go after alliances and joint ventures or initiate some digital marketing, there's always expenses that you incur when you do that over and above your gross profit margin.
Hmm.
So at the time, and this has to be at least a year ago, we went in and we figured out as a general estimate, okay, all things being equal, what would the percent be of like how much would you normally take out? And yeah, understand the software isn't as intelligent as we'd like it to be because we can't differentiate between different industries and all that. So in a general nature, what would we need to take out just so that numbers more accurately reflect what an increase would be? So we took it out of the revenue, um, and instead of out of the profits, because all these numbers in here reflect into the revenue, which then at the revenue there, which then this one I think has a 50% gross profit margin. Let me go and check that just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
50% gross profit margin. So then we would that would be the profit increase. Now you're looking and thinking 355,000 is not 50% of 618.
Yeah.
And the reason is we have cut costs in here and we're making money on these cut costs, but revenue is not impacted by that. So it's a little higher than 50%. It takes a little getting used to it there.
Hmm.
So I think if you really wanted to figure out what are the numbers exactly, I'd create an assessment. I'd do some round numbers. For example, do a million
Hmm.
and then just put 10% all the way down. You're going to get a pretty good idea of the percent that's coming out. So it's not
Sure.
an exact science. It's not perfect for every industry, every type of business, every situation.
Hmm.
Um, we're working on that as
Well.
our next project. And no, seriously, we are working on that to see how
Hmm.
can we make it more intelligent and make it more, let's say, AI smart across industries. And not just that, but there's elements we want to include, like you go into, let's say, California, and you have a different economic environment in the Bay Area than you do in Eastern Canada. And then you take that and you say, let's take an owner he's a high D personality and he's got a big budget versus an introvert, with a small budget? How does that impact the way we grow a business? Well, it has a lot of impact, but we want the software to start figuring out for us. We might be a year away from figuring that out, but we are working on that. So
Yeah, I guess what I'm struggling with is just trying to get, I guess, the right narrative around. We're showing and we're labeling it as expected revenue increase, but it's revenue less cost. So there's some kind of profit sort of baked in, and
yeah,
and we're trying to think, well, we're trying because I wasn't, and then I was having a tough time getting the math even to add for all those numbers in the middle to the expected revenue increase, that 618 at
okay.
least. Yeah, that
And they
wasn't adding
won't
up.
do that.
Yeah.
No, they won't. They won't add up. And the video you want to watch on that one,
Okay.
go into training
Uh-huh.
and let's see, scroll down. Um, the power of compounding impacts. I think I
Okay.
explain it here a little bit. So what
Okay.
happens is, you imagine you've got let me go back here.
Sure.
If you have $1 million business, you find them a 10% impact, it's 100,000 in
Hmm.
one area. But if you find them a 10% impact in another area, it might be 100,000 in that area. But when you compound the two together, you're now getting 10% of 1.1 million, which would be
Hmm.
bring you to 1.21, not 1.2. And
Okay.
so, yeah, these numbers will never add up to this revenue here,
Because that one's going to be
because
higher.
these are all compounding against each other. So these numbers
Okay.
will be smaller, I think, than this number here, which will be larger,
Yeah, that's what I was
because,
finding when I added all
yeah,
the green ones. It was a number smaller than the one above.
yep. No, that's yeah, it's the way we've made the software work.
Uh-huh.
Because let's say, if you look, yeah, go watch that compounding interest
Okay.
or compounding impact video. Take a look at, think of it this way: if you got 100 leads come, well, let's go 1,000. You got 1,000 leads coming in your business in a given year, and all things being equal, let's say you close 10% of those leads into clients. You've got 100 customers. Now, if you increase leads by 10%, you're now at 1,100 leads, not
Yeah.
1,000.
Hmm.
So that's one thing. If you increase your close rate by 10%, you go from 50% to 55%. You're now doing 55% of 100 of 1,100, not 55% of
Yeah.
um, the 1,000. And so everywhere along the line, if you imagine a funnel, and if you put
Sure.
your hands together like in a V shape, and you kind of picture a funnel, and all along, all the way down your fingers, you've got, let's say, 5 or 10 different impact points.
Hmm.
Every single one of those impact points widens pushes your hands further apart.
Sure.
And so, if you impact leads at the top, it pushes it apart, which means the bottom push apart too. And then your ability to get a meaningful conversation with a client. Let's say, if we just kind of walked it down a little bit, leads come in at the top, and they might come on your website, they might come through the office on a phone or something. You've got to reach that person. And of those people you reach, you've got to have a meaningful conversation, because if the guy says, "Hey, I'm busy, call me tomorrow," that's not a meaningful conversation, right? So you get that meaningful conversation. The idea is to set an appointment. You're going to set an appointment with a certain percent of those people, and then you're going to have a certain percentage of them keep their appointment. There's 2 impact points there. So we can do strategies to make sure you get more appointments for your sales team or yourself, and then you can increase by 5, 10%, 20% your ability to make sure those appointments are kept different ways. So now you're at the meeting. Sometimes you're going to close the sale on the first attempt. More than likely, you're going to close it on a follow-up attempt or several follow-up attempts. So we have an initial close rate, and I think you'll start looking at, in the deep dive, this area, used to call it the breakthrough 40. It's now the deep dive. You can click this open all button, and you see all these areas in here. So we have, where is that? There it is up there. We have initial close rate, and then we have follow-up close rate. These are two different, they're not just close rates, they're two different ways to, make sure you get the sale. And
Yeah.
now you've got them, they're going to come through the funnel, and now you've got different ways to make money on them as well. Downselling additional products and services and all these things.
Okay. Well, no, I appreciate the walkthrough, Patrick. And again, it's helpful to understand a little bit more the method behind the
Madness.
the one numbers on the screen, just so that I can speak to it as it is. I mean, for me, it's one of those where to me, it's, I guess, maybe a little bit balancing act. It sounds like you had a lot of feedback kind of going, and I know I'm not saying this decision was taken on a whim for sure. I appreciate the rigor behind it. It's just, for me, I would have been more in the camp of, let's keep it simple so that the clients can follow along those numbers, and so they don't get confused by, well, how come that number's lower? And then we have to have a conversation versus, no, this is just straightforward enough, recognizing that, and then having the caveat after being, now, again, some of these initiatives, yeah, you may have to invest a little bit in your business to make that happen. The question is going to be, well, is that money I'm paying you? Is that money I'm paying, a supplier, a vendor, or where are those numbers? I mean, it's just a little bit more of a, to me, until I figure out a way around it, a little more of a complex conversation to have to explain away the variances a little bit, I think. But I get you're trying to hedge it against showing reality, because some of these initiatives aren't cost less. You can't just do them without spending anything.
Right.
I guess so. It's
Well,
just
I think
a matter
the
of,
feedback we've been getting is a lot of coaches have explained this to their clients. They go, "Oh, I really appreciate that." What we're trying to do right across the board, and you see I got numbers of 5% all the way across here. We're trying to just keep our numbers low all the time. And whenever a client goes, "Oh, I grow, and this happens so much," if the coach says, "Hey, how much could you grow with your debt?" I go like, "Man, I double." And we say, well, let's be really ultra conservative, because we don't want to overinflate our numbers. So if we were super conservative, we could get this hands down, not a problem. What would that percent be? And they go, "Oh, easy, 5-10%.
Right.
You go, "Well, let's take 5. So we're just knocking down the numbers. We don't say, "Okay, well, let's take 10. Or I'm going to meet you halfway at 25. No.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just take the lowest number every single time and keep knocking them down, because when you say 5% here, $50,000, man, can you imagine if you come out of the gate and you get them 8%, 20%, whatever.
Sure.
But if you say 20 and you only get them 18, they're going to walk away a little bit disappointed. I mean, they're still going to be happy, but it's like, oh, the only guy got 18. He promised me 20.
Yeah.
You're just like, dang, I just get it out of the park here, So it's just, I think if you learn to explain it and say, look, the software is automatically taking some operating expenses or some expenses that come out to implement this. And we just don't want to overinflate our numbers here. We want to be conservative as possible. And I think most people will go, yeah, I respect that.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's I guess that's part of what I was after. So thanks for giving me the airtime. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Any other questions?
That's all I got for now. I think we'll just keep cracking away so I can know this thing inside and out as I keep using it.
Sure. Good. Well, we're doing our best to keep the changes coming, and we got our developers here going full out, and I'm chastising them for being a little bit slow on some things, but anyway, they're doing their best for sure. We got so many projects. We're like, oh my gosh, let's do that, and yeah, good. All right, I think Tom Kavanaugh had a question here. Yes, we can hear you. All right. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate that. Okay. Mark says, I've been out of the loop. Bad car. I'm so sorry to hear that. Car accident. How do I access this new software, and how much is it? Well, Mark, if you are an LPW coach, it's free, obviously, and I will show you where to go here. It's a PAS. I think it's PAS request. So no results-nofee.com/PAS request. If you're a new coach and you're just coming into the system and you're going through the onboarding, please don't come here yet to get this, because this might overwhelm you a little bit. it's better if you go through the process. You'll get it at the right time. And I mean, we spend so much time working on the onboarding process, like the step by step. Not trying to stretch anything out. We just realize if we give you everything at once, it overwhelms people, and we've heard that too much. So we want you to have the best experience. So go through the process. I think within a week, I think the process is changing next week a slight bit. It's not gonna, you won't really know it because it's not something visible, but at the right time, they'll say, okay, go here now and get this. And then just to access this form, I think it was Mark, it's the capital letters PAS. PAS for Profit Acceleration Software. Yeah, and hey, Mark, let me just open you up a little bit here. Let's see if I can connect with you. Yeah, there you go.
How you doing?
Hey, good. So you've been out for a little bit and you're back.
Yeah. I wasn't in Kenya, but they still drive like mad people around here sometimes. And I was at a red light and got hit by a truck going 45 and suffered a brain injury.
Sorry.
So thank you. But I'm able to function, and I need to get back to my business because it's been on hold. And I've been seeing these emails and the stuff for the new profit acceleration software, and I was thinking, okay, I wasn't that unhappy with the old one. I'd love to see this new one, but I didn't know how to get it, and no one.
Okay.
And I would ask some people in the group, and nobody could tell me.
Well, there it is. Yeah. So
Thank you.
it's no results-no fee.com/PAS request. And then the password is PAS. So pretty easy there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what would be fun to do maybe someday is just put together a little video or a little presentation showing where the software's come over the last 15 years and the genesis of it. And
well, I'm just watching this, and like the page you're on right now. There are a lot of times when I would do presentations or demonstrations on the old software, and I had just recently, right before my accident, I really wasn't fully engaged. I was still new, so I wasn't really experienced. But I would ask that question, why is this figure off, or why is it, what's like you'd show them the 5-year impact, and it'd be some wild number, and I would just say, you got to take just a chunk of that. What if it was just a quarter of that? But what you just described with the taking into account some costs, that makes perfect sense, and I think that's
sure.
It makes it believable to the other person.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna love this ROI tab. We had some charts in the old software, but oh man,
Yeah, the charts didn't make sense sometimes in the old software either. I had a hard time. I didn't even use all the charts because some of them didn't make sense to me.
Sure. No, they were just different options. They weren't something you had to show everyone, but they were options of what we could have. Just to refresh my screen there. So now we've got, why it's doing this. It's acting a little bit slow. There it is. So now you can have this initial investment. Maybe it's $2,000 or something. It's like, hey, to get started, I'm gonna charge $2,000 for doing an assessment. Here we have a monthly investment in coaching. So here we have the current profit, and then on the right side here is our annual investment in coaching. That's $2,000 a month times 12. Add 2,000. It's got 26,000. Here's your expected increase, and then here's your year one ROI from coaching is 1,107%. And would you like me to help you implement that? Now, what we've done with this as well, this is probably about 6 weeks ago, we made a change here. And if you go to implementation calendar, which is massively different than anything we've ever had, it's now a little bit more dynamic. We realize that we've got so many things we're implementing, but some things happen after week 52. And so you can't really count the impact of this one's leads and cut costs and upsell, cross-sell in the impact in year one as a year one impact, because you're not even going to get to it till year two.
Sure.
So we made a cutoff then as anything that you've initiated in the first 52 weeks, which would include additional products and services. You find the impact of that, and you can see that under priorities. That's additional products and services. And so here you get you add up all these numbers and profit impact. And these are standalone. They don't add them up. So I guess they're just maybe indicative of what the impact will be.
Mm-hmm.
But that gives you the ROI, and that we can see here was, I think that was 1,107%. So I think what we could do, we could just test this out. We could take this increased prices, and we're going to just drag this down now. Let's say we're going to implement it later.
That's cool.
We're going to save it. We're going to prioritize it. Oh, I don't want to reprioritize. I don't want the software's priority. I want my priority. So we just save it. And let's go back to ROI now, and let's see if that's updated. Yeah, it has. It's now 1,090%. So yeah, so we're making it a lot more dynamic, and of course we've got this thing in here. You've got this if you want to take a percent of revenue as well, little notes to explain what that means, and maybe you want a percent of revenue, and perhaps you're only going to get 2.5%, and you save that, and then here's the chart that will show. That's the bottom one is your annual investment in coaching, and here's the contingency, 11,860, 2.5% of the impact. And then we have some other charts down here just saying, okay, here's your current revenue, here's the additional, you'll make extra blue on the end. Here's the increased profits, here's your coaching fee. That's that 26,000, looks so tiny. Here's what you might make as a contingency. So yeah, we're coming a long way. We still got some changes to make, obviously, and we've got a boatload of changes that people are requesting, and hard to get to. But while I'm here, I just do a little training for everyone. I hear this sometimes when on the role play calls when coaches are coming in and they're asking for a 10% 10% of increased revenue, which sounds really nice. But in the financials, if the client has told you that let's say the net profit margin is 15% or 10%, and you're over here asking for 10% of their increased revenue, it leaves nothing for the client. So a dumb client will say, oh, that sounds great. A smart client would go, those numbers don't work for me. So you have to think about that, and maybe you're going to adjust your numbers down to 2% or 3% or something like that, which you might be able to sell that on a coaching program. So
that's interesting. This is really good. I mean, and I liked the old program because it was still something, but this takes it to a whole new level.
Oh yeah. So yeah, go in here when you get a chance. You get your software. It'll probably get set up for you tomorrow, but go into training first of all, and you'll see all the training here, all the videos. You watch them in order, go through, just watch a video, then go and do it. Watch a video, go and do it. Later, you can see the resources here. This is the Old Coaches Marketing Center.
Yep.
Is now in here. So
I have a question. With the old program, you could do mini snapshot questionnaires, or the big long one. Do you still have that ability, the two different types of assessments with this?
Well, yes, we do. So let's see here. We're back in when you create a new assessment and you put it under a company and you select a module set, you'll have three, basically. You'll have the Jumpstart 12 to close a sale, a Jumpstart 40 to close a sale or perform a faster full assessment, and a deep dive. So I'll give you an example of those.
Wow. Okay, much more.
Yeah, so this is a Jumpstart 12. There's 12 basic areas, and each of these areas are really just 5 questions. We're just trying to find a quick impact and close a sale. You can also I'll show you Jumpstart 40. It's actually 27 areas of the software. It's not 40. We took all the areas of sales team and we just put it under one set of questions. So you click this toggle, and you can see all the areas here. You can also use this to close a sale, or you could do a faster full assessment. And again, you've got just 5 areas here, or 5 questions, maybe 6 in some of them, maybe 4, but basically there's 4, 5, or 6 questions. So yeah, I like to use this one if I want to find a breakthrough for someone in a short time. I like to use the Jumpstart 40, and the reason is I have some go-to favorites, like reactivate former customers. Such a great way to grow a business, right? If they're in real estate or something, I want to talk about referrals. So I might ask questions under referral systems.
Yeah,
like
what
that.
you just said is important too, because it depends on the industry, where I would pick and choose.
Yeah, exactly. So I would recommend that you find the 5 to 6 to 8 areas that you love and just really train on those. Get your examples. A lot of coaches are now they've got like they build a little PowerPoint screen that explains the concept really well, and you know, just build your training. And then the last way is the Breakthrough 40, and this is where we script tree everything. Truly 40 areas here.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter's trying to call me. She's actually across town. She's teaching in Kenya now for the next couple of years.
How did you end up, if I can ask, how did you end up in Kenya?
Oh my.
Not that divert. I'm sorry, not that.
No, that's totally fine. Yeah, you know, we used to live in Japan, and we were 12 years in Japan and running a chain of English schools there. And the last couple of years, I had done my MBA online from Regent University in Virginia. And one of my profs was from Kenya. He's a Maasai. And he's like, hey, come on over. We got a safari company. Come on over here and be our marketing director. And, you know, my roots are in Africa. So I heard that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this dream come true. And so we sold everything in Japan. We moved everything over here. And then the 2 weeks after we arrived, the country went into like civil war with their elections. And so we ended up losing everything. But what I did at the time, I got into consulting at the time and coaching, and lasted about 1.5 years. And then we never got work permits, so we had to leave. So yeah, but I've always wanted to come back. I've been like praying to come back, you know, for 11.5 years, the last 12.
That's an amazing story, just from a multicultural standpoint.
Oh yeah, it's been fascinating. But anyway, my kids went to an international school here. My daughter, she's our oldest. She landed in grade 4 when she was whatever age. And yeah, just November, we were looking at coming back here and working here as well, and working with a mission here to help bring some practical business training into the churches here and actually across Africa. So my daughter contacted the school where she had gone to school and saying, hey, I've got my teaching degree. Can I come and volunteer? And they're like, yeah, don't just come and volunteer, apply for a position. And so she's actually back teaching 4th grade in the very same classroom as she left 12 years ago.
That's an amazing story. That's an amazing story. Wasn't what I expected when I signed on for this training. That's a hell of a story. You get a book there somewhere.
Yeah, well, there's already been a book in it. I've got a couple books out somewhere, but yeah. So anyway, and then long story short, you know, I've always had a heart to help people who really need help, and you know, I've been with Leader on and off for 10 years, and more recently, the last couple of years. And I told Carl and Adrian, it's like, that I really want to help people in Africa. And then my cousin called and said, hey, we've got this mission. We're in 29 countries. We need someone to lead up the practical business training.
Wow.
Across 62,000 churches. Can you help us? And so that's kind of how I'm gearing up in my part-time. But, you know, part of it is just being here, and we got our Kenyan developers here and a growing staff, and, you know, my wife working with us, and a couple of my boys have been helping Leader. You know, it's all virtual. And, you know, we'll be bringing in, you'll see, I think probably in a couple months, you'll start seeing Kenyan coaches in the Facebook group and on the trainings here. And we're going to just roll this out across Africa, the whole leader
It's
system.
amazing. It's amazing.
So,
well,
and what I
congratulations.
love about it, yeah, thank you. What I love about it, it's not just that we get to help people, but when you're doing business and you start interacting with people doing business around the world, they bring an entirely different perspective. And I used to do this very systematic study of businesses outside of different industries. So I'd literally study and take notes on like how clothing shops in England would market their business, how dentists in Australia and car dealerships in Japan, and you can start cross-pollinating marketing ideas. And I'm so excited because Kenyans are extremely creative and entrepreneurial through a very tough environment. So I think these guys or ladies are going to add a tremendous like a creativity and color maybe to our community, and coming with ideas like, oh, I never thought of that. It's brilliant. So anyway, I'm excited.
I love learning from different people and different cultures. To me, I just think where I live, I'm surrounded by people who think they know everything, but there's just so much. I live outside of Boston.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And so so it's when I get to talk to people, even in different parts of this country, they have different ideas or different perspectives on things. I can't imagine what it's like to be living in Japan or Kenya and getting their perspective on business. It must be mind blowing in some respects.
Well, that was really the genesis of the software like 15 years ago, is like, okay, how do we help people? How do we help people if we don't know anything about their business? So, if you're going to help a manufacturing company, but you've got no experience in manufacturing, do you have the right to help them? And I tell you, sit down, you start asking questions, maybe in the Jumpstart 40, and you will blow their minds with the quality of your questions. You will absolutely blow their minds. So something else you'll see, I'll show you one more thing, and then I'll got some other people asking questions.
Yeah, I apologize, everybody.
No, not at all. This is awesome. But you go to implementation calendar, and now in the implementation calendar, you'll see you can either click on the link or you can click on the icon next to the link. The link just gives you these are the answers at the back of the book. So you can click on these, you open them up. How are you going to implement market dominating position? You're just going to figure out what to do here. And these are all the answers in the back of the book. That's and amazing. Now you can take notes on all your meetings. And yeah, just have a look through that. Go through the training there.
Patrick, could you utilize this as maybe as a lead magnet, or because so recently I'm hiring a company to do some prospecting for me because I lost my business when I had my accident, so I need help getting it back. Would you utilize this as a lead magnet to give them an evaluation on their business, where they stand?
Oh, absolutely. That's what it's for. It's just, this is a client closer. So the whole training around, you'll learn this. If you haven't done the 100K training and you're coming back in, I would definitely go through the 100K training. Mm-hmm. And just to be able to promise people that you can find them, $100,000 in 45 minutes.
Yeah, when I was so this tells you how long I've been out. It was 10,000 in 45, and I got the book that says that. Now it's that was the old.
Well, it's the old 10K training, and in its own right, if you think of a business, you're going to go and help a bakery that's doing 150,000 a year. Maybe you'll find them 10,000. Maybe you'll find them more. But if you're going into a $5 million company, 10,000 means nothing. They sneeze at that, right?
Sure.
So you can find them 100,000, 250,000. Now they're listening. So it's just up to you and the type of business you're going after, your confidence level, your experience, all the rest.
Got it. Okay. Listen, I appreciate your time, and I apologize, sir.
No, not at all. This is awesome. Great to talk to you, Mark, and great to connect.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Bye.
All right. I'll put you on mute. We are going to scroll down to, oh, I think she is gone. I think Diana had a question. Oh, there she is. Okay. I'll be scrolling
Hi.
up to Diana. How are you, Diana?
I'm great. I always have a question. I'd love
That's
to hear
great.
more
Thank
about
you.
Africa. I'd talked to Holly a little bit about that, but hearing all those other details was wonderful. So I'm glad you asked that. I think it was Mark.
Yes,
Anyway,
yeah.
I have two very quick questions, I think,
Sure.
and then one that's not too long. One is that, the 10 questions, do we send those before we do the, the PAS to people?
Which 10 questions?
Well, it's a list of 10 questions. It appears in a few places in the training, and it's questions to get more information from them.
I know we've come up with questions that we might send ahead of time.
It's a list,
I think,
and I think it's one place it's in, and that's one of my other questions, is in the, let me read it here, 10K and 45-minute 8 strategy close by Adrian. I think he brings it up there, maybe not. Although that's another question, is when people say, oh, do the close or read the close or take the challenge, is all of that referring to this? Does that make sense?
yeah, I mean, there's so many different methods to present the material, to show a client, to find breakthroughs. There's the old 10K that was more of a presentation that would get people to sign up. This is my preference here, is using the software, because I think in the old 10K you're going through examples and you're saying, okay, this is what we could do for a child psychologist, but in this example, if you're using the software, it's like, I know you practice with Holly, is like, Holly, let's talk about your market dominating position.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are blending both of them really well.
That's what I did.
So yeah, and then people close in different ways. I would find a close that works for you and just really, really practice it well. I think part of the 100K training at the end was on the close. And so I'd go in, and there are scripts to do. I mean, the easiest script is you get to this page on a summary, and maybe you've done 3 areas, and you say, hey, Joe, we've just gone through 3 areas. Look, we found $55,000. Would you like me to help you implement this? That's the close. That's it.
It's nice and simple. I like that.
It's so simple. It's so non-threatening.
Yeah.
They'll say yes or no. And now, with more experience, you might, and more training and more practice, you might find a way to make that better. You're also going to have your response to their objections, and that's what I think Holly was teaching you a little bit, and that's what Wally does as in the role play as well. It's like, I don't know, I got to talk to my husband, or it's too expensive, or whatever. Or, let me think about it. I mean, you're going to have comebacks for all of those, and those are just going down, maybe working with other coaches and brainstorming it and say, if they said this, it's too expensive, what would I say? And you write out the answer, you type out the answer, and you memorize it. And then it's like, well, it's still too expensive. What else would you say? You might write out 2 or 3 or 4 different responses, and you just memorize them. Okay. So, yeah, and everyone hates to memorize things these days, but I mean, you've heard Adrian talk before. He did a presentation, and he would lock himself in a room for a couple of weeks and present to a bunch of balloons with their faces drawn on them. That's his audience.
I've actually never heard him say that.
When I did events in Kenya, I would practice every module like 20 to 30 times, and I did 2-day events with like 12 modules. But I'd practice it 20 to 30 times because my presentation style is different than Carl and Adrian's. That's what I do. So you think this is your business. This is your job. You're a professional. And if you went and worked for a CEO who said, hey, Diana, I want you to memorize these 5 scripts, you'd say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. And you'd go and do it, and you'd come back the next day and you'd present it to your CEO. Well, you're the CEO, so go next day, present it to yourself and make sure you can do it. And it's hard work. And so what we're trying to do here, what we've done here with the software is we've said, okay, we're going to save you 10,000 hours, but you still got 100 hours to show that you're worth the 10,000. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do 10,000 hours of all the work, but you know what? With this in your hand, you can now act like you've got 10,000 hours of experience, but it only takes you 20, 30 hours to do it, or 12 hours or whatever. So depending on your experience. So we've just shortcutted it by 90%, I think would be fair to say.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love it. Thank you. My other question is, and this scares me, in several places, it refers to offering a guarantee that if we don't get them X amount of money, then it's free. Does everybody do that? I mean, because when you're new,
okay, so here's what I would do.
Then you just worked for free.
Okay, so here's what I would do. When you're asking for percentages, you make sure if you're going and you're asking about market dominating position and you see they really suck at their business and they have no market dominating position, and if they did, they would probably make a 25% impact. They could double, literally. If you say 5%, you should be able to get that. But what I would do is, I think it's let me go here. It's under agreements. There's a standard agreement. Just click on that. Let's see if it downloads it for me. And you scroll to the end. Oh, here it is here. Can you see my screen there? 100% return on investment, ROI. So these should be, I've got them starting number 1 and then going into bullet points. So if we looked at how many are on here, let's just do this. There's 14 areas there that the ROI is subject to the following conditions. So you can look at these, like here's a good one in here. The overall economy or the specific industry that the clients engage in takes a downturn over at least 2 consecutive quarters. Well, your guarantee, if that happened, like COVID, for example, if you're not going to get them the increase, if the whole industry is dying, you might help them maintain. So you wouldn't have to give money back on that. What I say is, Mr. Client, as long as you implement to the level that we mutually agree upon, I'm only too happy to guarantee a positive return on investment. Now, here's the deal. If you're working with a client, probably 95% of them will not implement to the level that you mutually agree upon because they're horrible implementation. So yes, okay, let's say if it's 95% and it doesn't work, you might have 1 in 20, 1 in 50 ask for their money back, but you will close so many more clients by offering that guarantee than if you don't.
Okay.
Your risk reversal is so important to offer that. So find something that you're confident with. The ROI guarantee, if you take them to an ROI page, and let's say, let me do this. Let me go back to, I don't know, I wonder if I have one here that's got more than 1 in it. It doesn't have any. 3%.
Well, while you're looking, Patrick, I want to make sure that you say, if you implement these things to the level that we agree, I guarantee a positive return. Is that what you said?
Yes. I said, yeah, if you implement to the level that we mutually agree upon.
Mutually. Okay.
I'm only too happy to guarantee a positive return on investment. Okay, so here's a small business. It's a micro business, really. It's not even small. It's a micro. It's doing 200,000. I've got 3% over 12 areas. I go in my ROI tab. Oh, I didn't do any priorities. So let me just list a few priorities here. Let's go down here and do this quick. I want you to see the impact on your business. You see on the profit impacts only $2,000. It's really small. It's not much, of anything. So if you have, let me save that, let it prioritize it, and I'm going to go to ROI. So we know that you're going to help them make an increased profit of $33,000. Now, with a company this small, the most you're going to be able to charge them, I would say, would be $9.97 a month. So let's just put no initial investment. You have $9.97 a month, and you can see your ROI.
Small? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What do you mean by small?
Well, they're a tiny company. They're doing 200,000 a year.
No, I mean, when you said if a company's small, then only charge them $9.97. So in general, what do you mean by small? 200 or up to 500 or?
Yeah, it could be 500. Could be 500,000. Maybe under 500,000.
Okay.
Could be under 250. It just, you have to look, and you kind of see the impact you make.
Okay.
But for in this example, you're only going to help make an additional $33,000. At $9.97 a month, that's $11,964. So your ROI is 279. So you could close a deal on this for $9.97 a month, and you can say, I'm happy to get you that impact. And as long as you implement the level we mutually agree upon, I'm happy to guarantee you at least 100% ROI.
That's great.
So I could do that. And this is so important that you keep knocking your numbers down here, because here you're getting 3%. They're so minuscule. You have to know to yourself that you could do much better.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they implement the level you mutually agree upon, you're going to do much better than this, right? So you could, like we've seen companies that they get a new market dominating position and they not only double, they put their competitors out of business. They capture the entire market share.
Wow.
They go 2 or 3x, 300%, whatever. So 3% is really, really, really small. It's minuscule. So the more companies you get in front of, the more businesses you ask, you're gonna learn this. We call them two things. Some people have added a third dimension to it, but I call them setups and screw ups. The setups are those companies that you find these breakthroughs for. They're wonderful. They're happy to implement. They've got the budget. Basically, you can blow on them and they're going to grow because they're doing nothing right. The screw ups are the companies that will whine and complain about everything you ask them to do. They don't want to put any money into marketing and whatever other factors. And no matter how hard you try and help them, they're just not going to do anything. And those are the clients you want to invite to work for your competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Fire them.
Fire them and get them to slow down someone else in life, right?
Give them just someone you don't like.
Yeah, exactly. Life is too short to be
absolutely.
To be working with people like that. Like for me personally, I hate working with people who are just arrogant and think they know it all and whatever, but that's just me. I don't like working with people who are foul-mouthed and also cursing and things like that, because it kind of irritates me and it just makes my day miserable. I want to work with people that are fun to work with.
Yeah.
And for me, I found that with Carl and Adrian. So I'm an independent consultant with Leader, and I basically work full-time with Leader and part of the team and part of the executive team, and they're kind of my client and they're kind of the family and kind of an employee, and all three put together and whatever. And we've found a very good working relationship. It works for all of us, but I you know, I work with them because I love working with them, and I look forward to working with them every day. So, you know, what kind of job do you get where you get to look forward to going into work on? For me, it's Monday afternoon. It's not Monday morning, but anyway, that's me. Those
Well,
are
it does
clients
have
you
a
kind of want.
family
Yeah.
feeling, and it's great. And that's in my vision board, is that I'll have clients that are just wonderful to work with and that I love.
Nice. Well, just that's who you take.
Yeah.
You know, and one thing you can use is the success gauge. It's on the timetable somewhere to change it up a little bit. It's a bit clunky, but you can just go in and ask the questions, especially question 3. How would your friends or associates describe you? Your reaction to change. Question 4, are you coachable? Question 5, how hungry are you? And the more questions you ask, the more you'll get to know who your client is. And that's why one reason I like doing a deep dive with a client or a client before I take them on as a client. So my modus operandi I used to do, I'd do a Jumpstart for free. I would say, okay, before I can take you as a client, I need to do a full assessment on your business. You know, it'll take whatever, so many hours. I'll print out a full report for you, give you a roadmap, whatever. They say, what does that cost? And I'd charge them anywhere between $2,000 and $7,500 to do a full assessment.
Wow.
And I'd learn in that full assessment if I want them as a client, if I like them, and if I want to invest the next year of my life working alongside of them. It's not if they want me, it's if I want them, right?
Yeah.
So you take a different approach, and you learn a lot about a client when you're doing a full assessment, maybe with him, you know, person, the CEO, the head of sales, the head of marketing, other support staff. Maybe they call in and you see how they treat their employees and their staff, and you think, if they're not treating their staff well when they don't have to, they're not going to treat you well when they don't have to.
No.
So
that's brilliant. I love that.
anyway, just kind of a rant.
Well, these sessions
Anyway.
are so great. Thank you. I mean, every one of them is just so helpful.
Good. Any other questions before we go? I'm kind of out of time here, but can hang around if you have another question.
You mean me or other people?
Yeah, you. Yeah, if you have another.
Yeah, when you show the calendar and you showed it where the increased prices were pushed out, does anyone ever say, well, I want to do it like 3 times faster than that. I don't want to have this take 2 years.
I've never heard that, but I imagine it's been said a lot. And what you could say is on this implementation calendar, well, this is just one because it's the one I did. Let's go back to that one to get a more realistic look. The idea is you have to have a balance between being strategic and putting money in their pockets right away. And like in this one, I've got this initial planning meeting for 2 weeks. I've got market dominating position for 6 weeks. Now we're at 8 weeks. And if we haven't implemented something and put money in their pocket right away, I might not last to the quarterly review.
Mm-hmm.
So what you've got to do is maybe stack some things. So you say, in reality, Joe, we're going to look at your market dominating position. I'd like to come up with something maybe quickly that we can test a little bit, perhaps alongside a compelling offer. And I think we're going to look at raising your prices in this sector. Let's look at doing that, you know, maybe in the first 6 weeks. And then you get them a quick win, or you might go into cut costs and work on that and cut some costs, and you find your coaching fee there if that's what you like to do. So you got to find them some quick wins. Some of these things, they might take longer to implement. If you think about building alliances and joint ventures across multiple sectors, and you've got to train your staff how to do things, and you've got to reinforce the training, that might take you 3 months. And so I think you just, you know, as you go, you're looking, if you're working for a bigger company, they may move slower. They have more decision making meetings. It might take you 3 months, 6 months. Smaller companies, you know, they're really agile. One decision maker, high D personality, likes to go and get things done. I mean, that guy might get things done in 3 weeks. So yeah, you have to be responsive to that.
And do you do that in the software? Do you slide one of those over so it's concurrent with another one?
No. Yeah, that's like
You
a
just do it on a
phase
piece of
3.
paper. Okay.
That'll be phase 3 of it. I don't know when we'll get to that. It's already been diagrammed out and planned out, and then of course, here's the trick: is if we slide over this 8-week alliances and joint ventures over 5 slots, how does that change the revenue impact on the top or on the ROI tab, things like that?
Yeah.
Some little complicated algorithms there that we have to figure out and make it work. And
well, that should make it more impressive, actually, to the client that this is based on some things that aren't even on the chart that are going to happen that will bring money in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got it planned. We're waiting for the developers to be freed up on their current projects. And I know we've got other projects we've got to give them. So I don't know when it's going to happen. It might be this year.
I'm glad you said it wasn't there. I thought I just wasn't figuring it out.
No, it's not there yet.
So you just do it on a piece of paper, the way we used to years ago.
You could put it in a Google Sheet and like do a project management template in a Google Sheet or something and slide things around or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. In a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet or whatever. Absolutely.
Well, that's already way beyond me. I'd do it on a legal pad.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Totally fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good to talk to you, Diana.
Always good to talk to you. Thanks.
All righty. Well, guys, that's it. No other questions there. Let me just check the board and see if there's anything else I'm missing. Oh, it's been a good call. I get to talk a lot more when Carl's not here, don't I? So don't tell him I said that. He always says you can handle it from now on. All right, guys, I'll see you Thursday. Hopefully Carl will join us and we'll have some fun again together. And if you have questions, come with your questions. Alternately, if you have a question, you can ask, go into software is a good place and just go into support. And it's not really a ticket. It can be a ticket, or you can also ask a question here. If it's a question that's technical, it goes to William. If it's non-technical, it comes to me, and or William passes it on to me. It's a good way to do it. Alternately, you can email me email the team here at pas@noresults-nofee.com. All right, guys, take care. Thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye.